Hey guys, welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2020 presidential election and looking at Joe Biden's landslide scenario, otherwise known as his best case scenario. So we're going to look at the electoral map and look at the things that need to happen if Joe Biden is going to get to his landslide best case scenario, or in other words, more than 350 electoral votes on the electoral map. So before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. So let's get started. So currently, most political forecasters and political scientists have the electoral map anywhere around 289 electoral votes for Biden to 330 on average. That is the current averages that we have, and that's how they put it. My prediction shows Biden winning by 305 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 233. Now, for Biden to win by a landslide, he would have to win by 45 more electoral votes, which is definitely in the realm of possibility. But what else can he accomplish? How much more can he get than 350? So we're going to look at this right now. And first thing I want to talk about, what are the couple of different things that need to happen? First of all, Donald Trump's unpopularity keeps on going up. If that continues to happen, and if that does happen, we're going to see Joe Biden's chances not only at winning the election, but landslide, even winning by his best case scenario, go up. And currently, the scenario we're looking at right now was like on the upper tier of like scenarios when it came to Biden when we thought of the election in February or early March. But since the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, which really have affected President Trump, we are seeing something that's very interesting when it comes to the Biden campaign, that at this point in time, their average scenario looks more like what one of her best case scenarios would have looked like back in March. So at this point in time, I think that especially the economy is going to have to continue to go down in rambles like it has for the last couple of days, because again, that has really hurt President Trump. Trump's marquee issue is economy and foreign policy, which for many Americans, the economy is important, but it's not good. So that's going to be very hard for him. And that might just trigger a best case scenario landslide for Biden. Now, one thing we also must analyze is that Republicans are not feeling the biggest hit when it comes to COVID-19 handling and general unpopularity at the presidential level. It's these down ballot races like the United States Senate or the House, the Republicans are truly being impacted. So for Trump, it's certainly not over. But if the electoral map goes and all certain things happen that align for Joe Biden to have a landslide best case scenario, it would happen then. So the biggest change we would see is a lot of these states that are very tilty, they would move their margins, even flip entirely. So for the Democrats, for example, in the Rust Belt, in a best case scenario for Biden, we could be seeing victories here by likely margins, which in current polling data, that's already what we're seeing. Generally speaking, this area of the country, the polling data was a little off in 2016. So I would say give a couple points of error for Donald Trump. However, considering a best case scenario, I think the whole Rust Belt in general could go anywhere from around 6 to 7% to even 10%. So that's something that's very interesting and we must look at. And I think that's one of the first areas to be impacted by a best case scenario for Joe Biden. In addition, we have some Democratic states that are on the verge of being safe. These are states where Donald Trump has put little to no effort. The Republican Party are out of money in these states, like Colorado and Virginia, and even in New Hampshire. These states, in a Biden best case scenario where he performs and overperforms a lot of his expectations, we're going to be seeing him winning there by a margin of around, we could say, maybe 15% or more. And those are margins that are definitely plausible. They could happen. However, right now they're not the most likely, but again, it is definitely a possibility. When it comes to the state of Nevada, that is a state I think would stay the same margin-wise, but I think it would go definitely up in the margin levels. So right now I see the state of Nevada going by around 5% for Biden. In a best-case scenario landslide where he blows the competition away, he does everything well, he could win in Nevada by 12 points, still in the likely margin. However, the numbers go up. We're also going to see a state like Arizona move into the likely call, maybe by 5 points. These are all best case scenarios. And for Biden to win this, and again, this is his best case scenario where he wins by an absolute landslide, these things would need to happen. States like North Carolina, states that are still in the Democratic column would probably go up in the lean column, would be around 3 to 5%, upper side of what this state has been in the modern political history of our country. So a lot of these Democratic states, they would be upgrading their level of how much they go by. However, some of these states that were Republican or are currently leading Republicans, where Republicans are leading in polls, leading in forecasts, a lot of the models put them ahead, those states might go as well. We're seeing the state of Florida on very thin ice for the Republicans right now. This state could very well go by a lean margin to the Democrats, by around 3%. And we're seeing Joe Biden leading certain polls by 3%. Again, but we're also seeing a lot of recent polls having Donald Trump ahead by 3 points. So it's actually very, very interesting in that state. And I mean, that's just the first state, because we have a lot of other states similar to the state of Florida or similar situations where the Republican Party is on very thin ice. Look at Georgia. That state could easily go by a lean margin to the Democrats. Maybe on the lower side by 2%, but still. We're seeing here in the state of Georgia polling numbers only by 1.8% for President Trump. In a state where the Republicans won here by about 5% in 2016, but even more in 2012. And that is because here we're seeing a very big surge in suburban voters flipping across from the Republicans to the Democrats. That is one thing we must understand, and a very big trend that we must understand. A lot of voters, especially in these more conservative states, what really made them conservative are those suburbs that haven't flipped. If only this happens, we already have a landslide for Biden, 350 electoral votes. However, I think in a best case scenario for Biden, some of these other red states would increase the margins for the Democrats, tighten up the race, or flip in general. Look at the state of Texas, another state where Donald Trump and the Republicans are on very thin ice. This state requires a lot more work because to get like the percentage or two that he needs, if we listen to polling averages, it's going to be a little bit tougher, you could say. However, right now in the state of Texas, Trump is only leading by around 1.8%. Again, very small numbers. So at this point in time, it's definitely the realm of possibility. And even for Biden to win by a lean margin in the state of Texas, maybe 2 points. And again, these two states up here, Iowa and Ohio, these are two states, again, that have voted Democrat in the past. It is no doubt that Democrats do have somewhat of a base there. That could definitely happen in a state like Iowa or Ohio. These are states where the Republican Party definitely do have support. This is where a lot of their very big base lives. They have a lot of voters in that area, especially like in the Midwestern part of the country. It's just that sometimes they vote Democrat. And for Joe Biden, since he is a moderate Democrat, at least on the spectrum of Democrats, and he does have that appeal to the Midwestern voter, and he's actually doing very well there. And you're going against a Republican who has very good Midwestern appeal. That's something that really might be interesting for Biden. He's definitely focusing in that area of the country. And without a doubt, Joe Biden could win in those two states in a best case landslide scenario. I think also we would see Maine's 2nd congressional district flip and go by a lean margin for Joe Biden. Again, that's another electoral vote that we're seeing there. Biden could win in his best case landslide scenario. Now, the last couple of states that we have to declassify or classify are states that are currently in the leanish column or in the likely column, if they could move on to the lean column for the Republicans and narrow down those margins. At this point in time, I would say the state of South Carolina and perhaps the state of Alaska could definitely go in the lean column in a best case scenario for Joe Biden. This would be if he gets really good turnout amongst independents and very, very good turnout amongst voters of Republicans leaving the party, as well in the state of Montana. The rest of these states that are more on the likely column, they probably would stay the same. But these states that I just told you about probably would stay by around 5% in a best case scenario for Donald Trump, or for Joe Biden, by 5% in the lean column. So overall, this map has some changes. And I think the biggest changes is a lot of these big red Republican states, they're flipping in a best case scenario for Joe Biden. And in the best case, he would get 413 electoral votes. Very, very big amount. And it's not completely out of the picture. He's only behind by like a couple points in a lot of these states. Margins will definitely narrow down in a lot of Republican states. And at this point, it's not completely out of the picture. Again, things change quickly. Politics change quickly. But as of right now, this is the best Joe Biden can accomplish. And yet again, we also must consider that this election has been very, very weird, I guess, we haven't seen any big dips where the election has come within a couple points, even like 3 points, all the way since early March. we're seeing right now an election that consistently has been by 6 to 9 points for Joe Biden. And that means that could either be one or two things. One, polling data could be insanely wrong and the election could go to Trump. Or we're in the precursor to a landslide victory for the Democrats. And at this point in time, I think it's definitely a possibility, but it's not necessary because at this point in time, we're also seeing the Democrats do very well in the Senate, and the Republicans are quickly running out of money. The more money the Republicans run out of, the Democrats are raising a lot more than the Republicans as of now, which really is going to be interesting to see if how that impacts in states like Texas or Florida or Georgia, where the Democrats need to win here, or they should win here to lock up the map. Do not let the Republicans win. So at this point in time, this is Joe Biden's landslide scenario. Certain things need to happen, like the economy completely going rotten, the Trump campaign having some huge scandals, something like that. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely? Not so much. So this was the video on the best case scenario, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.